Perfect. I never met a good businessman who didn't make a good pirate.
And who are you?
I'm the manager of this building, Henry Waniment.
I was just thinking, no matter which way it goes.
This is Nicole Bradford.
Congratulations. It's a girl.
It'll be the end of an era.
Remember when your favorite TV show didn't just end? It vanished. One week you're laughing along, waiting for answers, and the next, the network pulls the plug, leaving characters stranded in mid-story. No closure, no goodbye, just a cliffhanger that still keeps fans up at night. The 1980s were full of unforgettable shows, but some of the most beloved were cut short, leaving millions of viewers frustrated and heartbroken. Today, we're diving into 7 classic TV shows that ended with no resolution, from sitcom families abandoned mid-plot to one alien left staring down a government raid. These are the endings that time never fixed. 7. My Two Dads. Before DNA tests became daytime TV fodder, NBC gave us My Two Dads, a sitcom built entirely on the idea that one girl could have 2 fathers, without anyone ever figuring out who the real dad was. Premiering in 1987, the show paired 2 polar opposites, Joey Harris, a free-spirited artist played by Greg Evigan, and Michael Taylor, a buttoned-up financial advisor played by Paul Reiser. Years earlier, both had dated the same woman. When she passed away, custody of her daughter, Nicole, went to both men, because apparently the judge decided a tie was as good as a verdict. That judge, Margaret Wilbur, played by Florence Stanley, didn't just make the ruling. She stuck around as their landlord and voice of reason, ready to knock sense into the dads whenever chaos struck. The charm of My Two Dads was in the odd couple chemistry. Joey smelled like paint thinner and freedom, while Michael reeked of spreadsheets and balanced budgets. Nicole, played by Stacey Keenan, was caught between them, navigating adolescence with 2 very different role models. Add in a revolving door of guest stars, including a young Giovanni Ribisi, Chad Allen, and even NFL legend Dick Butkus flipping burgers at the local diner. And the show felt like a time capsule of late 80s pop culture. But the real hook was the mystery. Who was Nicole's biological father? After 3 seasons of hints, fans finally thought they'd get an answer in the finale, See You in September. Instead, Nicole shredded the DNA test results, declaring, "I have 2 dads." Roll credits. 3 years of build-up gone in 5 seconds. No closure, no reveal. Just one of TV's most frustrating non-endings.
This is Nicole Bradford.
Congratulations. It's a girl.
6. The Jeffersons. Defined television in the late 1970s and early 80s like The Jeffersons. Spun off from All in the Family, it premiered in 1975 and quickly became more than just a sitcom. It was a cultural milestone. At the heart of it was George Jefferson, played with unforgettable energy by Sherman Hemsley, and his wife Louise, affectionately known as Wheezy, played by Isabel Sanford. Together, they climbed from Queens to a deluxe apartment in the sky, representing Black success on primetime television in a way that was almost unheard of at the time. The show tackled issues other sitcoms barely touched: racism, interracial marriage, economic inequality, workplace discrimination, all while delivering sharp comedy that kept audiences laughing. The supporting cast added just as much flavor: their son Lionel, his wife Jenny, and her parents Tom and Helen Willis, the first interracial couple shown regularly on network television. Their quick-witted maid Florence, played by Marla Gibbs, became a fan favorite with her sharp comebacks, while quirky neighbor Mr. Bentley brought his own brand of British awkwardness into the mix. For 11 seasons, the Jeffersons broke barriers and made history. But in 1985, CBS canceled it without warning. No farewell tour, no goodbye episode, not even a heads up to the cast. Sherman Hemsley reportedly learned about it by reading Variety over breakfast, while Isabel Sanford only found out when a family member saw the news in the paper. After a decade of groundbreaking television, the final episode, Red Robins, aired like any ordinary installment, ending not just a season but the entire series with no closure at all. Fans expected a grand finale. Instead, they got a casual shrug. One of TV's most influential shows ended not with a bang, but with silence, a cancellation that still stings decades later.
Well, Bill always goes as a pirate.
Perfect. I never met a good businessman who didn't make a good pirate.
5. Webster. On paper, Webster looked like just another 80s sitcom trying to cash in on the cute kid solves everything formula. But thanks to its pint-sized star, it became something far more memorable. Emmanuel Lewis played Webster Long, a recently orphaned 5-year-old taken in by ex-football player George Papadopoulos, played by Alex Karras, and his wife Catherine, played by Susan Clark. What started as a mismatched family premise quickly grew into a charming blend of comedy and heart, with Webster's wide-eyed innocence at the center. Funny enough, Webster wasn't even supposed to be Webster's show. It was originally pitched as a vehicle for Karras and Clark, but once producers saw Lewis steal the spotlight in a Burger King commercial, the entire series was reshaped around him. For a while, it worked brilliantly. Webster was a top 30 hit, and Emmanuel Lewis was everywhere, from award shows to TV specials. But as the years went on, ratings slipped. ABC dropped the show after 4 seasons, only for syndication to swoop in and keep it alive for 2 more years. By then, though, Lewis was aging, 17 years old, still playing a kid who never seemed to grow past 12. And then came the finale. Instead of heartfelt closure, WebTrek sent Webster into a Star Trek, The Next Generation dream sequence, floating through space, chatting with Lieutenant Worf, and replaying old clips. No farewell hugs with George and Catherine, no last family moment, just a clip show with a sci-fi bow. Ironically, the episode before, Flood of Memories, would have made the perfect ending, with the family flipping through water-damaged photo albums of their shared history. Instead, fans got a cosmic shrug. After 6 seasons, Webster's story ended not with warmth, but with weirdness.
It's great because you're well enough to work again. The dogs like you much better than jerky treats.
4th, Punky Brewster. Few shows captured 80s wholesomeness like Punky Brewster. Premiering in 1984, it introduced audiences to Penelope Punky Brewster, played by Soleil Moon Frye, a street-smart little girl abandoned at a shopping mall by her mother. She squats in an empty apartment until she's discovered by Henry Warnemont, a grumpy but good-hearted widowed photographer played by George Gaines. Against the odds, the two form an unlikely family, and Punky Power became her rallying cry. The show built its charm on mismatched shoes, rainbow socks, and a lesson in every episode. Punky wasn't alone either. Her best friend Cherie lived upstairs with her no-nonsense grandmother, Betty. Alan was the goofy neighbor kid, Margot the rich girl frenemy, and her teacher Mike managed to be both role model and after-school special. It was warm, funny, and very, very 80s. But the network had other plans. After just 2 seasons, NBC pulled the plug. The reason? Sunday nights were dominated by 60 Minutes, and Punky never stood a chance in the ratings war. Luckily, syndication swooped in like Punky's own guardian angel, reviving the show for 2 more seasons of teenage growing pains, mall hijinks, and even a literal dog wedding. Yes, Punky's golden retriever, Brandon, married his canine sweetheart in full ceremony. By season 4, Punky, Henry, and Cherie were running a burger joint at the mall called Punky's Place, with stories shifting toward teenage drama. Then, silence. No farewell, no closure, just cancellation. Decades later, Peacock attempted a revival in 2021, bringing Soleil Moon Frye back as a single mom of 3. Fans were thrilled until it too was canceled after just 1 season. Punky's story, it seems, never got the proper ending it deserved.
And who are you?
I'm the manager of this building, Henry Waniment.
Nice to meet you, Hank.
3. Benson. Before The West Wing made politics seem noble, Benson showed us government dysfunction with a laugh track. Spun off from the soap opera parody Soap, the series premiered in 1979 and quickly became a staple of 80s television. Robert Guillaume starred as Benson Dubois, originally hired as the head of household affairs for bumbling Governor Eugene Gatling. But Benson wasn't just there to manage the mansion. He was the smartest man in every room, often holding the entire administration together with little more than quick wit and sarcasm. The cast around him was just as unforgettable. Governor Gatling, played by James Noble, was well-meaning but scatterbrained. Gretchen Krauss, the sharp-tongued German housekeeper played by Inga Swenson, sparred constantly with Benson until their bickering turned into mutual respect. Then there was Clayton Endicott III, the pompous chief of staff played by René Auberjonois, whose superiority complex was matched only by his hypochondria. For 7 seasons, viewers watched Benson climb the political ladder, from head of household affairs to budget director to lieutenant governor. His rise felt natural, inevitable, and satisfying. So when the final season built toward Benson running for governor against his old boss Gatling, fans were glued to their screens. The finale, "And the Winner Is," aired in 1986 and promised a payoff years in the making. The election was neck and neck. The last precincts were reporting, emotions were high, and just as the winner was about to be announced, the screen froze. Roll credits. ABC had ordered a cliffhanger, expecting another season. Instead, the show was abruptly canceled. 3 different endings were filmed: Benson wins, Gatling wins, and even a tie. But none were ever revealed. After 7 years of growth, Benson's story ended not with triumph or defeat, but with a blank screen. One of TV's greatest cliffhangers remains unresolved to this day.
I was just thinking, no matter which way it goes, it'll be the end of an era.
2. Too close for comfort. If you've ever had adult kids move back home, you know it can turn a quiet house into total chaos. That was the setup for Too Close for Comfort, which premiered in 1980. Ted Knight, best known from The Mary Tyler Moore Show, starred as Henry Rush, a cranky but lovable cartoonist living in San Francisco with his wife Muriel, played by Nancy Dussault. Their golden years were supposed to be peaceful until their 2 grown daughters, Jackie and Sarah, moved into the downstairs apartment. What followed was sitcom gold. The Rush household was full of generational clashes, meddling neighbors, and the unforgettable Monroe Ficus, played by Jim J. Bullock. Monroe's lovable cluelessness, paired with Henry's constant exasperation, gave the show its heart. And in true sitcom fashion, when in doubt, they even added a baby. Muriel gave birth to a son midway through the run. The series started strong, even reaching the top 10 in ratings. But after a time slot shuffle, ABC canceled it in 1983. Thankfully, syndication rescued the show, keeping it alive for 3 more years. By the final season, though, everything changed. The show was rebranded as The Ted Knight Show, dropping Henry's daughters and the comic strip storyline in favor of Henry running a local newspaper. And then, tragedy struck. In 1986, Ted Knight passed away from cancer during production. Instead of giving Henry a proper farewell, the writers quietly wrote him out as away on business. The show limped to its end in early 1987, with Monroe still around, but without the Rush family heart that made it special. Fans never got closure, just the ghost of what once was.
You could work Sarah and Jackie, and then I'd be in great financial shape.
1. ALF. Of all the 80s sitcoms, none ended with a harder punch to the gut than ALF. Premiering in 1986, it told the story of Gordon Shumway, better known as ALF, short for Alien Life Form. After crash landing into the Tanner family's garage, the wisecracking, cat-craving alien became a part of their suburban household. For 4 seasons, fans tuned in to see ALF dodge the government's alien task force, deliver sarcastic one-liners, and somehow make chaos feel like comfort. The plan was for ALF to go out on a high note. The showrunners had hinted at a satisfying conclusion. Maybe ALF would finally reunite with fellow survivors of his destroyed planet Melmac, or at least find some kind of happy ending. Instead, fans got one of the darkest finales in sitcom history. In the final episode, ALF makes contact with Melmacians and prepares to leave Earth. The Tanners gather for a tearful goodbye, ready to watch their alien friend finally go home. But just as the reunion is about to happen, sirens blare. The alien task force arrives, surrounding ALF with spotlights and soldiers. The last shot freezes on ALF's terrified face. Then the screen cuts to black. No rescue, no escape, just silence. Viewers assumed a follow-up episode or TV movie would resolve the cliffhanger, but NBC canceled the show. For years, that freeze frame was the ending. Millions of kids were left traumatized, wondering if their favorite alien was captured, dissected, or worse. 6 years later, a made-for-TV movie called Project ALF tried to tie things up. ALF avoids execution, foils a government cover-up, and even becomes an ambassador. But with none of the Tanner family returning, it felt hollow, more like an alternate reality than true closure. Decades later, fans still remember ALF not for its laughs, but for the cruel way it ended. A beloved character left stranded, frozen in fear, with no real goodbye.
What?
And there you have it, 7 beloved 80s shows that didn't just end, they vanished, leaving fans stranded on cliffhangers that still haunt television history. From Punky's rainbow socks, to Benson's unfinished election, to ALF staring into those blinding spotlights, these endings remind us how invested we were, and how abruptly TV networks could pull the plug. For many fans, the lack of closure wasn't just disappointing, it felt like losing a piece of family. These characters made us laugh, taught us lessons, and stuck with us long after the credits rolled. Maybe that's why we still talk about them decades later. Now, I want to hear from you. Which unfinished storyline still keeps you wondering? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to hit that like button, share this with a fellow retro TV fan, and subscribe to Time Capsule Media so you never miss our next deep dive into classic television.